My friends, the Rings of Power Season 2 is the best thing that I've watched this year, and I need to rant about it. If you've been following my channel for the past month and a half, you've seen that I've been reacting to each episode of Rings of Power Season 2, and honestly, going into Season 2, I had expectations, but they were a little bit mixed. I've publicly stated that I enjoyed Season 1, but it's not my favorite thing in the world. The couple takeaways that I had were that it was absolutely beautiful. You could tell that they were using every last penny of that budget, just visually, it is stunning, and then also the music is fucking gorgeous. But there was a large complaint from the audience, and I certainly felt that. It was just the pace. It was a very slow-moving season, and it was something to get used to. You know, I hadn't really felt that since maybe a Game of Thrones type show. And even when watching the first season again before Season 2, there are times where it drags a little bit. And so going into Season 2, I was excited, but just a little bit apprehensive. Okay, what are we going to get ourselves into here? But, good God, this season was so amazing, and truly, I'm surprised that more people are not talking about it. Sometimes it feels like certain movies and shows, there's kind of this vibe around them where people don't want to talk about it because they're afraid of lowering their status in the social world. And I want to talk about that a little bit because sometimes there is valid criticism that comes from stuff like that. I mentioned with the first season, the pacing, but the first season was also ripped apart for a whole bunch of reasons that had nothing to do with the quality of the show. And that's what saddens me the most. I just feel like if some of these people would give the show a shot, they would be pleasantly surprised. Go into it with a blank opinion instead of wearing the glasses that have the information that you've been fed in front of them. So while you turn on the show, you're just oh yeah, but that's why I don't like it actually. People need to calm down and just sit and relax and enjoy this show because it is top shelf peak entertainment. I got the same feelings watching this show that I got watching Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King when I was younger. You know, that midnight showing of Return of the King. That energy, I had that for the finale of Season 2, and you can't change that. You can't take that away. And I know, and I'm already rolling my eyes, but people will probably call me a shill for that, but truly, objectively, when you look at the finale for this show, just the opening 10 minutes of it, it is absolutely insane what you see on the screen and what Bear McCreary is doing and the level that he is operating at. And truly, guys, I don't want you to misunderstand me. I'm not trying to come on here and rip on people that have differing opinions than me. I'm merely pointing out the fact that this is one of those shows where a lot of people have kind of been swept up into some sort of an echo chamber, and a lot of the negative comments that you see surrounding this show are exactly the same. That's how you know that something fishy is going on. When all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a bunch of people who probably hadn't even seen Peter Jackson's trilogy until 6 months ago are coming out and saying that they're Tolkien experts. And they're pissed off because somebody told them that it's changing the lore and it's doing this or that. And I gotta say, as somebody that has read the books, has read the trilogy, has read The Hobbit, and is a fan of the movies as well as the books, my perspective is I don't really care because I'm just watching what's on screen. I'm enjoying what this is doing. It's not actively changing something that's come before. People do this a lot with Star Wars as well. They get so upset that this new thing might be changing something from the past. And, if you're an expert and you know all of this stuff, I completely respect your opinion and I completely respect where you're coming from. But as the casual fan, as well as a critic, I watch this show and I see nothing but a well put together, entertaining 8-episode epic that deserves a little bit of love and a lot less hate. A lot of people are watching, thank God. And I know there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way that I do, and I'm so happy about that. Going through and doing reactions for each episode and seeing the comment section flooded with people just saying, oh my gosh, they just had a similar experience to me, that makes my heart happy because at the end of the day, what Lord of the Rings is all about is good triumphing over evil and hope in this world of darkness, and that's what we're doing. It's not about politics, it's about Middle Earth and orcs and elves. But that's about all I have on that note, honestly, here on my channel. If you know me, if you've been watching me for a little while, I just like to shine a light on negativity and just show that it exists because maybe somebody that's super negative all the time or had a negative outlook on this show and didn't watch it but has just been outright hating it on the internet, maybe they'll see this video and maybe it'll flip their mindset around and give them a chance to watch it because that's something that I went through with The Last Jedi, and my outlook on film and television hasn't been the same since. I really enjoy criticism of film and TV. If something is objectively bad, let's find why it's bad. And when something is objectively good, let's talk about why it's good. And so that's why why I kind of want to transition into a bit of a general review of this season, because where we were heading after the first season, we had Halbrand walking into Mordor, which was super badass, and everything said about the first season, the way that it ended with the reveal that Halbrand is Sauron, that left the door wide open for what we now have. I just didn't expect them to get as bold as they did, and I think the one thing that sticks out for me, and I would imagine sticks out for so many people that watch this season, it's like the highlighting factor, but it's Celebrimbor and Anatar, or should I say Celebrimbor and Sauron. But Charlie Vickers and Charles Edwards, these two actors, you can tell that they just spent a lot of time together shooting this. They didn't have many other scenes with a lot of the different characters in the show, and you felt that relationship. It spoke through the screen. The demise of Celebrimbor, watching this character that you know what's gonna happen, you know where this is all leading. That's kind of the fun of this entire show. You kind of know that things are just gonna go bad. But a character like Celebrimbor, who is inherently good, but he has this larger-than-life ego, and you pair him with Sauron, it's just the perfect recipe for absolute chaos. And watching this season unfold, and watching the finale unfold the way that it does, watching Celebrimbor's demise, again, it was truly some of the more beautiful storytelling that I've ever seen. I was obsessed with it. Their story was just the highest of highs for me, and the other plot lines that were going on, it was hard for it to compete, but to my surprise, they did. They were all operating on extremely high levels, like the fact that we got to spend time with Isildur. We have him going against Shelob, and then we have this romance with Astrid kind of starting up, and then you also have him working along with Arondir, and you have the entire thing with the Ents, that beautiful moment at the end of, what episode was that? I think it was episode 4, and you just have this beautiful dialogue, and you mix that with some of the other scenes, like the Barrow Wights that you see, and you have Galadriel, and you have Gil-galad, and you have Elrond, and Elrond's entire character arc with the rings, starting out being completely against them in the beginning, and by the end he's come full circle, and he uses that to heal Galadriel. He puts his life into that. You also have, and I'll say it correctly here, you have Durin, and you have the Khazad-dûm stuff. A plot line that I wasn't all about in the first season, but I still enjoyed it just because I love the character of Durin so much. But the way that they evolved the story here, and they played up the relationship between him and his father, and then they utilized the making of the rings for the dwarves and how powerful that was, and then we saw how it twisted his father's mind, how it twisted, what is it, King Durin III's mind. They told a really powerful and nuanced story there that ended up culminating in this insane sacrifice by his father, jumping off of a ledge with an axe to face the Balrog. This was easily the coolest visual that this show, this entire series, has offered so far, and it definitely matches the stuff in Peter Jackson's trilogy that we got with Gandalf and the Balrog. It was all so familiar, and it was also powerful, and just what a beautiful sacrifice, man. Every single storyline managed to keep me entertained. I would say the two lesser storylines were probably the two that I could have predicted going into it. It was the Numenor plotline, as well as Nori and the Stranger, but what I didn't expect out of the Numenor plotline was this Game of Thrones level drama, where we're actually starting to learn more about these characters. We're actually starting to connect with these characters, and we're actually starting to care about what happens in Numenor. That's not something that really happened to me in season 1. Honestly, every time they went to Numenor, I was kind of like, I don't really give a shit about this. But they managed to suck me in there because there was always high tension going on, and that's the same thing that happened across the way with Nori and the Stranger's plotline. You had the Stranger finding his way in Middle-earth, his path leading to Old Tom Bombadil, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit because that's going to pair really nicely with the Bear McCreary talk here, but you have him as well as you have Nori, and I thought what they did with Nori and Poppy was fine. Again, with them being kind of chased, and with the other wizard, there was tension there. Tension enough. Now, where their plot line ended at the end of the season, it kind of threw me off a bit because I'm not sure, like, where are we going with them? Are we going to keep following them? Are they going to come back to the Stranger? But that's kind of besides the point. I would say if there was any sort of nitpick that I had with this season, it really was just kind of their plot line, but luckily you had the Stranger for most of it being with them. But zooming out, what they managed to continue to create with Middle-earth, showing us different sides to it, is why I'm loving this show so far, because it has this strange Peter Jackson-esque vibe to it, to where you feel like the look is just similar enough to put you back. And that's like when you're picturing Frodo in the future, you picture Elijah Wood's Frodo still. Like everything still feels and looks the same. But overall, the way that they evolved the plot in this season told us a couple things. It told us that this is going to take a while because you have a character like Isildur. We all know where Isildur's going, right? We all know he's going to Mount Doom. We all know kind of the turn that he has. And obviously, it was the ring that corrupted him, but you don't even see a hint of anything that resembles evil or bad within him, you know? And so you have a feeling that his story's going to go in a direction where it's going to kind of harden him. Then you have a character like Arondir, who we start this season off with the loss of Bronwyn, you know? You take out a main character from the first and we see where this goes. And again, his character evolves and gets back to a middle ground, but you almost feel like he's just getting back to square one, but now he has the whole of Middle-earth kind of realized. He's viewing things in a much different way, and now he's with Galadriel. And speaking of Galadriel, where her story goes is just, it's brilliant, man. The way that they used her and Adar to kind of mirror each other throughout this season until we see the death of Adar, kind of this shadow that Galadriel put over Sauron throughout this whole season because she's trying to come to terms with what the hell happened in the last season. So she puts that over, and then all of a sudden the blinders are taken off in the final episode, and she has to face her biggest fear. And now, after everything that happens in the finale, we get to see where the hell all of that goes. And then, you know, there's so many other characters that I could talk about, but really just Sauron. Unfreaking believable, dude. Like, so good. So much fun to watch. Such a strong performance throughout this entire thing. If there was any doubt that Charlie Vickers was the right casting for this character, he completely shut everybody up, man. It's very much like a Walter White or a Tony Soprano when you're watching these shows. You're just kind of like, man, I'm enjoying what's happening with Jesse right now, but I do want to get back to Walter White. Because with Sauron, there can be anything going on, but just getting back to what was happening with him and Celebrimbor, just getting back to what was happening with him and the evil and the madness, but also the feelings and the emotions that this character has that we're seeing on display here. And we're seeing him, we know where he's going, and we get to watch that progression. Again, it's a long progression, and what's exciting is this is only the tip of the iceberg, you know what I mean? I'm just very satisfied, and I will wrap up here. You know, the final thing that I wanted to talk about, he's somebody that I've already shouted out on Twitter. He's somebody that I'm going to be talking about for years to come as I watch this show over and over, but it's Bear McCreary. What Bear has done with 16 episodes of this show seems impossible. Living up to a giant, or trying to stand next to a giant that is Howard Shore, and that score that came from those Peter Jackson films. Everybody knows the Shire theme. Everybody knows the Fellowship theme. And I can't imagine the immense pressure that you would feel going in and trying to create something like this. And that was honestly one of my biggest kind of points of apprehension going into season one, was like, what are they going to do? But season one blew me out of the water. The music was phenomenal. And somehow he elevated it with this second season. Every single moment was made better because of the score that was happening. Watching this with headphones the entire time was definitely to my advantage, and I am a big musical person. But Bear McCreary said, you know what, I'm doing my thing. I'm putting like an orc metal song at the end of an episode. I am putting some of the most beautiful sounds and things. I'm putting dwarven chants into some of these episodes, and I'm giving freaking Tom Bombadil his own song. That's really what hits home the most for me. It's the feeling that you get looking at Tom Bombadil. It's the feeling that you get when you're looking at the stranger and he has this realization, this epiphany of what his name is. He speaks the name Gandalf, and that alone sent me over the moon. And we immediately have Tom Bombadil's theme start playing, and the camera zooms out through a window, and this theme just gets larger and larger and larger. And these are the things that maybe some people don't notice, or maybe somebody's watching this on their phone, but this is what makes this show so special. This is why I wish I could watch this stuff in a theater, because Bear McCreary truly is working with a score that deserves to be heard in a theater. It's that beautiful, man. I always say, and I stand by this, and this is no knock against the filmmaking side of this. Obviously, there's so many components that go into this, but music is 55% of the battle. If your music sucks, the whole thing sucks. And what Bear managed to do with this score is, again, stand next to Howard Shore, stand next to people like John Williams, Hans Zimmer, Michael Giacchino, and really cement his place in the entertainment industry as one of the heavy hitters. I cannot talk about that score enough, and I'd be very curious down in the comments if anybody feels the same way. I'd love to hear from you. But typically I give a star rating when I'm reviewing something, and I will for this. My friends, I'm giving the Rings of Power Season 2 5 out of 5 stars because I loved it. No doubt. This was a much longer video than I planned on, but I'm very happy to have talked about this show now for a long time. At this point, I really want to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed this season, please let me know your opinions on it down in the comments. If you didn't enjoy this season, please let me know why down in the comments. Like I spoke about in the beginning of this, I appreciate valid criticism. I don't want to hear some polarized take about why somebody told you that this show sucks. Like, tell me why you don't like this show, or tell me why you liked this show. I would love to hear all of it, because personally over here, I want to keep talking about the Rings of Power, and it sucks that it's over, but I would love to keep talking about it. So ask me questions, give me video ideas, anything that could keep this series going, because that's what my channel is all about, man, talking about the things that we love. So anyways, guys, I hope everybody out there is having a terrific day. I hope this video managed to bring you a little bit of happiness. If you're new here, my name is Danny. I go by Jones Vibes. Hit the like button for me. I'd greatly appreciate it. That helps out the channel. Make sure you subscribe for more content, because I make a hell of a lot of it, and keep up the good vibes, my friends. Peace!